Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Alright, here we go again. Back to the Austin Model Y. As more information comes to light, the facts we have are that Tesla are delivering these new Austin-made Model Ys to their employees. These are standard range all-wheel drive Model Ys, yet there is no ability to purchase such a vehicle online. We're pretty much certain now that these Austin Model Ys do have the structural packs with 4680 cells. By the way, be sure to watch this video till the end because I'm really proud of some of the research I've done. We're hearing that there is a leaked email from Tesla employees going around too that claims, "We're excited to introduce Model Y all-wheel drive, the first vehicle manufactured at Giga, Texas. Model Y all-wheel drive uses our first structural battery pack with 4680 cells." So Tesla are referring to it as the all-wheel drive, not standard range, which might be more in line with Tesla's new way of naming trims, having recently renamed the Model 3 standard range to the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. Earlier in March, we also had the hacker discover there was a new Model Y Standard Range Plus that was supposedly made in Texas. However, saying that, we also saw the demo cars in Austin, and they were called the Standard Dual Motor, not called the Standard Range Plus, but we might assume these are the same vehicle. Judging by the percentage this vehicle was charged and the amount of range the vehicle claimed remained, it aligns perfectly with a range of 279 miles. We also saw some code for the Tesla website leaked, showing some more of the specifications and available options. This was for a Model Y all-wheel drive. So this model has now had 3 different names from potentially Tesla as a source, but the vehicle range seems to be the same in each scenario, i.e. 279 miles. FYI, I know that code is not actual web code, it's JSON, which is just a way of displaying an array in text. Okay, so just to recap, we know there is a very good chance that there is a Model Y all-wheel drive being made in Texas with 4680 structural battery pack and 279 miles of range. But what we've also recently discovered in Reddit that this car was available for employees to buy for $60,000. There are people saying that they can confirm this is the case and have seen the documentation. Likely no one on Twitter wants to disclose this as they would be fired. Okay, so just to reiterate, there is supposedly a Model Y all-wheel drive with 279 miles of range with 4680 structural battery packs that is made in Austin. And it is, or was, for sale to employees for $60,000. Alright, there is a lot to digest here. Let's start by firstly actually acknowledging this price point and what it means. I guess we would assume that if this car was for sale to the public, then it would probably be the same price, and that the employees are not getting insider discounts. Now let's compare this with the current Model Y long range with 2170 batteries, which is currently for sale for $63,000. So for an additional $3,000, you get a further 50 miles of range. That seems like quite good value for the extra range. So is it that Tesla have so much demand they think they can actually sell a standard Model Y for as much as $60,000? Just to remind you, it was only just over a year ago when Tesla offered a standard range Model Y and it cost only $42,000, but only had a range of 244 miles and was rear-wheel drive. But this is almost 50% more expensive now. Now, you and I understand there is a lot more difference between these two vehicles, the long range and the new all-wheel drive, but the average consumer, do you think they would understand? In fact, as the prices are so close, if anything, I think it would add to the confusion. Perhaps it will be marketed as the new Model Y, and the advantages will be clearly shown on the site, but I don't know how much a typical consumer could really understand what a structural battery pack means. Or perhaps the other advantage of ordering it is that the waiting list is much shorter and you can take possession of it a lot sooner than a long-range version. Either way, these price points are very close, which could confuse consumers. I mean, is this 4680 standard vehicle that much better that it warrants about the same price tag as a long-range version? Are most drivers going to notice the improved handling? No, I don't think they do. I think most of us are in a Tesla echo chamber for a start, and I doubt any regular person you ask if they care about structural battery packs, 4680s or LFP or whatever, they would just look at you with a quizzical expression on their face and ask, what are you talking about? The battery day tech is likely lost on the vast majority of consumers, or at least definitely when it hits the masses, so it will be tough for most to justify losing 50 miles to save $3,000. From another perspective though, if this is a $60,000 standard Model Y, then wow. Presumably, Tesla know their supply and demand curves pretty well, And if they think they could get away with $60,000 for this vehicle, then you can only begin to imagine what the gross margins must be. At a quick guess, in excess of 40%, possibly even 45%, even more if they add FSD. I know commodity prices have gone through the roof, but you have to remember this is likely somewhat transitory, and Tesla would have locked in prices a long time ago, and the ones they didn't, they no doubt hedged anyway. It's an obvious thing to do, and Zachary Kirkhorn is one switched-on CFO, so if I can think of it, he can. Oh, and likely Elon too. I mean, it's obvious. So I would say those margins are standing strong, which is bonkers, especially when the car is $60,000. We're talking about $25,000 gross profit per vehicle. If they sold 1 million a year, that alone is $25 billion gross profit, on top of everything else. I mean, maybe this level of range is the sweet spot for Tesla, offering this much range but not using too many cells, so they can make perhaps 30% more vehicles, all receiving these crazy profits. It really is enough range for the vast majority of driving. Range anxiety isn't really a thing anymore. The Model 3 rear-wheel drive is the best-selling Model 3, and it has even less range, and people manage to cope. And there's a lot we don't know about the new battery day tech either yet. We don't even know if the battery charges faster than the 2170 or not. According to Battery Day, a cell with 46mm diameter actually charges slightly slower than a 21mm diameter from the 2170 cell. I mean, only slightly. However, the graph is a little sneaky, as there's something in brackets on the graph after the label charge time. It says tabless. So this is comparing different charging speeds for different diameters of tabless cells, implying not necessarily the actual 2170 cell. In other words, this new vehicle might charge a lot faster than the long range, which means consumers may see value in that, and makes us wonder just how fast are these new battery packs capable of charging. Of course, we have to remember that faster charging does result in faster battery degradation, but what if the 4680 cells can handle the faster charging that much better? We've heard that there's a good chance they're capable of 1 million miles before too much degradation, so that might also mean further that the fact these batteries are more rugged, then they could be charged more like LFP batteries. In other words, they can charge all the way to 100% and discharge all the way down to 0%, compared to the long-range 2170 version, which is meant to be charged between 10 and 90%, thus instantly losing 20% of your range. And okay, sure, you can charge it fully to 100 and drive it to 0, but it degrades the battery faster. Well, 20% of 330 miles is 66. In other words, the actual range of the Model Y long range is really around 264 miles, which is 15 fewer miles than the new Austin Model Y. However, in reality, all this really means is that you just need to charge your long range more regularly than your 4680 standard. But it still matters, and it still adds value to the vehicle over a 2170 version. If this model is real, then Tesla have also circumnavigated the potential Osborne effect. This is exactly the way I'd hoped they would do this. If you recall, I said if they're launching a long-range 4680, then they should charge an additional $5,000, which would take it to $68,000. Well, this is kind of the same, except the addition to the price tag is being added onto the standard range. But even still, the one thing that simply doesn't add up the most is the fact there are 828 4680 cells in those battery packs. Now, we could instantly think perhaps those were for display only, even though we saw them with that many cells on the actual production line too, and perhaps this standard version was just a test version with only 600 or so cells. But how likely is that? I think these vehicles have 828 cells, which would likely come in at roughly 82 watt-hours per cell, a little lower than most estimates, but still a possibility. But a 70 kilowatt-hour battery pack, this figure is too high for a 279-mile range model, especially when you factor in all the battery day technology, which is why I can understand where the LFP theory derives, as it would be easy to jump to an LFP theory here, but there are a lot of reasons it's not LFP. I think we have to rule it out and work with what is most likely. So what is most likely? What if employees get the first few Model Ys that were test production ones, limited by software for now until Tesla releases the new long range when Tesla is ready, and the employees get theirs upgraded with software, but ended up buying them at a discount? I hope we can all agree I've not been trying to stick to any narrative and reinforce any confirmation biases. I've been fickle to the latest news and reports we receive, which I think is the way it should be. Now this is what makes the most logical sense to me at the moment. The standard all-wheel drive is actually a long range in disguise, limited by software. The EPA figures appear to be bogus. But this is not the first time Tesla have requested the EPA to downgrade their vehicles. The EPA gave the Model 3 a range of 334 miles, and Tesla requested them to reduce it to 310 miles. so I don't think the EPA information is reliable. The rumours were that Tesla requested the EPA to downgrade the vehicle range because it was just too good. No reason we aren't seeing that happen again. In fact, lots of reasons Tesla are doing that right now. It doesn't stop there either. With the Model X 60D, Tesla allowed an upgrade of the battery to go from 60 kilowatt hours to 75 kilowatt hours, or from a 60D to a 75D model. This would not be the first time Tesla have limited the usable battery with software. Whether Tesla sell this Austin Model Y as a standard version with optional upgrade is uncertain, but I would say the employees' versions they have purchased will eventually have a software upgrade, whether it's free or paid, that will take their car to the long-range version 4680 from Austin. Wow, this sure is exciting. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.